Hi everyone, my plan of action today is to talk about why liberty. So I thought that liberty wasn't for somebody like me. Now I get told off about saying I'm a middle-aged woman with a Welsh section A, feeling as though I'm just faffing around. I did a podcast the other day about limiting beliefs, and that belief isn't particularly useful, but there I go, I've just splurted it out again. But genuinely I thought that you had to be young and slim and beautiful and posing in the forest with your horse rearing with some fancy dress on, or you had to be like Ben Atkinson, God love him, with his shirt off and totally ripped with a six-pack. And years ago, I was in a business, we'd started a business that I absolutely hated. I had zero interest in it, we were losing money, it was awful, and we were abroad. And I was up all night long watching videos of people doing liberty, thinking, I just want to do this, but seeing absolutely no way how. I didn't know where to start. So anyway, thankfully, the universe has brought me to this place, and COVID was an amazing opportunity for me because we weren't going anywhere, to learn and get stuck in. And I was lucky enough to have training from overseas trainers via Zoom and etc. And I just wanted to tell you why I love it, and also that it is in fact possible for middle-aged people to do it. You can do it whoever or whatever you are. So the first thing for me, the big thing, is about communication. So if we're not connected to our horses, we can't force them to do anything. Not that I live in the realms of forcing any animal to do anything anyway. A, because I don't want to, because I don't think it's right, and B, because I wouldn't dare even if I tried. But if you don't have a rope, you are purely relying on that animal understanding what you mean. So when I'm cantering my pony around and I'll lift my whip up and say whoa, and she stops, that's because she fully understands what that means, and that she wants to do it for me, and she wants to, we're a team, and she wants to get it right, and she enjoys trying to solve the puzzles, and that makes me super happy as well. So for me, it tests the communication. Have I trained it properly? And that is the joy for me, learning how to train something, checking whether my animal understands, and constantly reflecting, how can I do this better? How can I do this better? And my pace, my progress might not be earth-shattering. I'm sure other trainers who are braver and younger and all the rest of it can make progress so much quicker. I think, when you get to a certain age, there's something about problem solving, like, I don't know, you daren't make mistakes quite as easily as you used to when you were younger. So I'm sure I could have made much faster progress 20 years ago, but hey ho, I didn't find it until recently. And I've forgotten what I was saying now. But yeah, so the delight for me is this one here, is that I feel as though I'm progressing, that I can challenge myself every day. I think, right, how can I make this harder? What can I do today that will challenge whether she really understands what I'm doing? And so that gives me a huge amount of satisfaction. For somebody who used to love competing, back in the day, my goal was to get to Prix St George, and I had a defined competition structure through British dressage. You start off, well, in my day there was no such thing as an intro, so you started off at prelim, and you had a defined structure against set criteria about how you progressed. But once I was no longer competing, it was like, how do I measure my progress? What am I doing? What's the purpose of all of this? And now, thankfully, I found something where I can see a route to pushing myself and improving as a trainer. So the other thing that I put here is trust. So I'm sure many of you know that I've basically had huge confidence issues all my life, and eventually gave up riding about 9 years ago now. But I'd worked previously with warm bloods and stallions and young horses and stuff, and I'd developed this really strong fear of being run over. Big warm blood, when it's frightened and its arousal levels are up, they don't really care whether you're there or not, and they'll mow you down. So one thing about the liberty is learning about the drive and the draw. So the drive is where you send your horse around you, and the draw is where you ask the horse to come into you. So the drive has given me confidence that I can, my horse will move away from me. But when I work on the draw and I'm asking my horse to come close, particularly when we start asking speed, that is a huge exercise in trust for me. Trusting that we've built the communication, we've got the relationship sufficient that yes, they're going to come close to me, but they're not going to mow me down. So when I do this 30-day challenge with Haffy, who's quite a bit bigger than Ella, my Welsh Section A, who's only about 11'2". Haffy's a halflinger, got a very original name, and he's 14 hands cubed. So it's quite, I mean, I'm fairly certain wouldn't hurt a fly, so I don't have an issue with him. He's had very good education and he's 17 now and he's been there and done it and seen it. But for me, psychologically, he's a much bigger animal. So if we get to the point, well, hopefully we will, because I've put myself under pressure now doing this challenge, where I'm working on the draw, that is a real big trigger for me and something that if I get it, I know that I've made some huge progress. And the last thing is observation. So when you're on the ground and you're working at liberty, you can see how they're moving. I used to be a physio, not a horse physio, a human physio, but I'm obsessed with movement. I love watching how they move. You can see more how they're feeling and how they're reacting and what they're thinking. So I love being able to watch and see what happens. And, you know, sometimes when it doesn't go right and you don't get what you want, there's one thing that you always do get, and that's feedback. So your horse will always give you feedback, and we should see that as a gift. So that can then inspire us to ask better questions and say, well, how can we do that differently? What can we do to help us get the result that we wanted? So I hope that was helpful. I hope it's inspiring all of you to have a go, no matter how old, how slim, whatever you are. And I'd love to hear what your whys are, what you'd like to get from Learning Liberty, what you'd like to be doing by the end of the 30 days. And yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone's progress.